The moon hung heavy over the forest, its silver light dripping through ancient oaks as Amelia Drake pressed forward, her breath visible in the frigid night air. Blood stained her pale dress, though none of it was hers. The wound in her side had closed hours ago, a gift from her cursed lineage. The villagers called it witchcraft. She called it survival. 3 days of running from those who once called her neighbor had led her to this forbidden place, the edge of Prince Nikolai Valasin's domain. No mortal dared venture this deep into the forest, but Amelia had long suspected she was not entirely mortal. The voices that whispered in her blood when the moon was full told her as much. Better to die by a vampire's hand than be burned by those who pretend to be human, she whispered, pushing aside a branch. Death awaited her either way. The witch hunters would not abandon their pursuit, not after what they had seen her do. Amelia believed monsters could not love. Her father had taught her that before he disappeared into these very woods when she was 12. The darkness within her blood marked her as unworthy of affection, undeserving of connection. At 22, she had lived a decade with this truth. Her only desire was to understand what curse flowed through her veins before death claimed her. A twig snapped behind her. "You have strayed far from your kind, little one." The voice was ancient as the mountains, yet smooth as velvet. Amelia turned slowly, her heart thundering against her ribs. He emerged from shadow as if birthed by the darkness itself, tall, impossibly beautiful, with eyes that gleamed like polished obsidian. His presence radiated power that made the air around her vibrate. "Prince Nikolai," she breathed, recognizing him from the whispered legends. His expression remained impassive as he circled her. "Your blood sings a curious song." He inhaled deeply. "Not entirely human. How fascinating." "The witch hunters come for me," she said, straightening her spine despite her fear. "I seek answers before they find me. And you believe I possess these answers?" His lips curved in amusement. "I believe you will kill me regardless. I would prefer to die with knowledge rather than ignorance." The vampire prince moved so quickly she could not track him. Suddenly his cold fingers lifted her chin, his eyes boring into hers. "Your blood carries an ancient lineage. Drake is not your true name, is it?" The question struck her like lightning. Her mother had changed their name after her father vanished. "How could you?" "I can smell the old blood in you, dormant, but awakening." His thumb traced her jawline. "The witch hunters sense it too, though they lack the knowledge to name it." The sound of distant shouts and flickering torchlight filtered through the trees. "They come," Amelia whispered. Something unexpected flashed in the prince's eyes. Not hunger, but curiosity, perhaps even concern. "I offer you a choice, daughter of old blood. Die here at the hands of your persecutors, or come with me to my fortress. Neither option promises a gentle fate." Amelia searched his face, finding no compassion there, only cold interest. Yet it was more than humanity had offered her. "I choose you," she said, the words feeling like an ancient vow. Without warning, he swept her into his arms and moved through the forest with supernatural speed. The world blurred around them as he carried her deeper into his territory, away from the hunting party. Wind whipped her dark hair across her face as she clung to him, his body hard and cold as marble beneath her fingers. "What is this old blood you speak of?" she asked against the rush of air. "That is a conversation for safer ground," he replied, his voice undisturbed by their rapid movement. "For now, know that you have intrigued me, and I rarely find humans intriguing. I am not entirely human, as you said." His eyes flashed to hers, a hint of dark amusement curving his lips. "No, you are not." The ancient fortress appeared suddenly before them, rising from the mountainside like an extension of the rock itself. Black stone towers pierced the night sky, and massive iron gates creaked open at their approach without a single touch. Inside, the fortress hummed with quiet activity. Pale figures moving through shadowed hallways, their eyes following Amelia with predatory interest. The prince carried her through a labyrinth of corridors to a circular chamber dominated by a roaring fire. He set her down before the flames. You will stay here until I return. And then what becomes of me? Amelia asked, finding courage in desperation. That depends entirely on what secrets your blood reveals. He moved toward the door but paused. You came seeking death or answers. I make no promises about the former, but I may provide the latter. With that, he vanished, leaving Amelia alone in the chamber of a vampire prince, wondering if she had merely exchanged one death for another. 3 days passed within the fortress walls. Prince Nikolai had not returned, but servants, some human, some clearly not, brought Amelia food and fresh clothing. They whispered as they worked around her, hushed conversations in languages she almost understood. On the 4th night, the chamber door opened to reveal Nikolai. He looked exactly as before, though his eyes seemed darker, haunted by something he had discovered. Your bloodline descends from the Dracal, he said without preamble. Not the historical figure that humans know, but the first of our kind to break covenant with the blood courts. Amelia rose from her chair by the fire. I do not understand. The Dracal was neither human nor vampire, but something else, a bridge between worlds. His descendants carried diluted powers in their blood. Your father was one such descendant. He approached her slowly. As are you. My father. The mention of him sent a ripple of pain through her chest. He disappeared in these woods. He came to me, seeking protection from those hunting him. Nikolai's face hardened. I refused. It was a decision made in pride and adherence to ancient law. The blood courts forbid interference with the old lineages. What happened to him? The witch hunters found him at the edge of my territory. I felt his death, as I feel all deaths within my domain. His voice carried no emotion, yet something in his eyes spoke of regret. Your arrival is no coincidence, Amelia Drake. Your blood called you here, to complete what your father began. Which is what? A reckoning. He gestured to a small table that had not been there before. Upon it sat an ornate silver dagger and a crystal goblet. The old blood in you is awakening. Your body is changing, though you may not yet perceive it. You heal faster. Your senses sharpen. Soon, you will begin to crave that which sustains my kind. Horror washed over her. I am becoming a vampire? No. You are becoming what you were always meant to be. A Daysinger, one who walks between worlds. Neither fully human nor vampire, but possessing attributes of both. He lifted the dagger. Tonight, your transformation will either complete itself or destroy you. And you will what? Watch as I suffer. Anger flared in her, hot and bright. I will guide you if you permit it. For the first time, uncertainty crossed his perfect features. I owe your bloodline a debt. The admission stunned her. Vampires did not acknowledge debts to humans. Why would you help me? Because I failed your father, and that failure has haunted me for a decade. His voice lowered. And because in all my centuries, I have never encountered a Daysinger transformation. You are quite possibly the last of your kind. Amelia stared at the dagger and goblet. What must I do? The blood of an ancient vampire can catalyze your transformation. My blood. He held her gaze. But such a bond is not undertaken lightly. It creates a connection that cannot be broken in life or death. Understanding dawned. You would be bound to me? As you would be to me. His expression remained unreadable. The choice is yours, Amelia Drake. Face your transformation alone with significant risk of death, or accept my blood and my bond. She studied him, this immortal creature who had existed for centuries before her birth. Cold, beautiful, and dangerous, yet standing before her with an offer that belied the stories she had heard of his kind. Monsters could not love, could not care. This she had always believed. Yet here was one offering to bind himself to her fate. Why would you risk such a bond? She asked. Something flickered in his gaze. A moment of vulnerability quickly masked. Perhaps after centuries of existence, even monsters seek redemption. The word resonated through her. Redemption. Was that not what she sought as well? Understanding of the darkness within her, and peace with it? I accept your blood, she said softly. And your bond. Relief, unmistakable despite his control, crossed his features. He moved to sit beside her, taking the dagger in one fluid motion. The transformation will cause great pain, he warned. Your body will fight against itself as the old blood fully awakens. Pain and I are well acquainted. He nodded once, then drew the blade across his wrist. Dark blood, thicker than human blood and with an iridescent quality, welled from the wound. He let it flow into the crystal goblet until it was half full, then offered it to her. Drink, he commanded softly. All of it. Amelia took the goblet with trembling hands and raised it to her lips. The blood tasted unlike anything she had experienced. Rich with power and memory, ancient and alive. She drank without stopping, feeling each swallow burn down her throat and spread through her body like liquid fire. When she finished, Nikolai took the empty goblet and set it aside, watching her intently. For several heartbeats, nothing happened. Then the pain began. It started in her core and radiated outward, as if her bones were shattering and reforming. She screamed, her back arching off the chair. Nikolai caught her before she could fall, cradling her against his chest as convulsions racked her body. Fight through it, he murmured against her hair. Your blood remembers what you are meant to be. Let it transform you. Visions flashed behind her eyes. Ancient battles, blood rituals, faces of ancestors she had never known. She saw her father standing before this same vampire prince, proud and defiant. She felt the earth drinking his blood as witch hunters cut him down. I cannot, she gasped, feeling as if her skin might split open. You can, Nikolai insisted, his voice closer now. I feel your strength through our new bond. You are more powerful than you know. The pain peaked, a white-hot agony that consumed every part of her. Amelia felt herself slipping away, darkness closing in. As consciousness began to fade, she heard Nikolai's voice, urgent and commanding. Do not leave me, Daysinger. I did not save you to lose you now. His words anchored her, giving her something to cling to as the transformation tore through her body. Hours passed in a haze of pain and fevered dreams. When she finally opened her eyes, the chamber was bathed in early morning light. Nikolai sat beside her bed, his expression tense. When he saw her awake, something like relief softened his features. You survived, he said simply. Amelia tried to sit up, surprised by the ease with which her body responded. She felt different, stronger. Her senses seemed heightened. She could hear conversations from distant parts of the fortress, smell the forest beyond the stone walls. What happened? She asked, her voice clearer than before. Your transformation completed itself. He studied her with newfound respect. You are now fully Daysinger, resistant to sunlight, possessed of enhanced strength and senses, with a lifespan that will far exceed any human's. But I am not immortal like you? A shadow crossed his face. No, but you will live centuries rather than decades. Aging so slowly it will seem like immortality to human eyes. Amelia looked down at her hands, expecting to find them changed somehow, but they appeared the same. The witch hunters cannot reach you here, he assured her. Though that is the least of our concerns now. What do you mean? Nikolai rose and moved to the window, gazing out at the forest below. The blood courts will have felt your awakening. A Daysinger has not walked these lands in 5 centuries. They will come for you, some to study, others to destroy. Fear prickled along her spine. And you? What do you intend to do with me? He turned back to her, his expression unreadable. I am bound to you now, as you are to me. Your survival is my concern, your enemies my enemies. Pause. I will teach you to control your new abilities, to defend yourself. Why would you protect me? She pressed, needing to understand. Something shifted in his gaze, a vulnerability she had not seen before. Because in all my centuries, I have never felt such a connection to another being. Our blood bond has created something unexpected. What do you mean? I can feel your emotions, your thoughts at times, and you, if you focus, can feel mine. He approached her bedside. Try it. Reach through the bond between us. Amelia closed her eyes, concentrating on the strange new awareness humming beneath her skin. She felt a presence. Ancient, powerful, but not as cold as she had first believed. Beneath layers of control and duty lay something warm and alive. Loneliness, regret, and a fierce protectiveness directed at her. Her eyes flew open. You care what happens to me. Truly care. It seems I do. The admission appeared to surprise him as much as her. Perhaps monsters can learn new tricks after all. For the first time since entering his domain, Amelia smiled. Perhaps they can. The weeks that followed transformed Amelia in ways beyond the physical. Under Nikolai's guidance, she learned to control her enhanced strength, to move with preternatural speed, to hear and see beyond human limitations. The bond between them strengthened, allowing glimpses into each other's minds, sensing emotions and sometimes even thoughts. What she had not anticipated was how that bond would change them both. Each day, she witnessed small cracks in his carefully maintained facade, moments of dry humor, flashes of compassion, even occasional wonder as he observed her adapting to her new nature. For his part, Nikolai found himself drawn to her chambers each evening, first under the guise of training, then simply for conversation. She asked questions about his past that no one had dared pose in centuries, and to his own surprise, he answered them. One night, as they sat before the fire after a particularly demanding training session, Amelia gathered the courage to ask what she had been wondering for weeks. Why did the blood courts forbid interference with my bloodline? What makes the Daysingers so dangerous to your kind? Nikolai was silent for a long moment, his eyes reflecting the dancing flames. The first Daysinger was beloved by an ancient vampire queen. Their bond created a new bloodline, one that could walk in sunlight yet possessed many vampire attributes. The blood courts feared this dilution of pure vampire lineage. And the Daysinger proved more powerful than anticipated. She could enter the dreams of vampires, influence their thoughts. Some said she could even permanently kill an ancient with a single touch. He turned to Amelia. The blood courts ordered all Daysingers hunted to extinction. Then I am an abomination to your kind. To the blood courts, perhaps. His gaze held hers. To me, you are a revelation. The intensity in his eyes made her breath catch. Through their bond, she felt his genuine admiration, his growing affection, emotions he would never voice aloud. Will they come for me? She asked softly. Yes. He did not soften the truth. My messengers report that the courts have dispatched hunters. They will arrive within a fortnight. Fear clenched in her stomach. What will we do? We will face them. He reached out, his cold fingers brushing hers. Together, the touch sent a spark of awareness through their bond. Amelia felt his concern for her safety, his determination to protect her, and beneath it all, something deeper taking root. I thought monsters could not love, she whispered, giving voice to her oldest belief. Nikolai's expression softened almost imperceptibly. Perhaps we have both been wrong about many things. Before she could respond, a commotion erupted in the hallway outside. The door flew open to reveal Elias, Nikolai's most trusted guard. My prince, the Eastern Watchtower reports movement at the forest edge. Not blood court hunters, humans. Many of them. Nikolai stood in one fluid motion. Witch hunters? Yes, my lord. They carry fire and silver. And they speak the name Drake. Amelia felt cold dread wash over her. They have tracked me here. Nikolai's expression hardened. Elias, prepare the guard. No human crosses our outer walls. Wait, Amelia said, rising to stand beside him. These are the same men who killed my father. I should face them. Absolutely not. Nikolai's voice left no room for argument. You have not completed your training. Your powers are still unpredictable. They hunt me because they fear what they do not understand, she insisted. Let me show them what I truly am. They will try to destroy you. They can try. Through their bond, She projected her determination, her need to confront those who had forced her to flee her home. After a moment, she felt his reluctant acquiescence. "You will not face them alone," he said, his tone brooking no refusal. Together, they made their way to the fortress ramparts. Below, at the edge of the forest, dozens of torches illuminated grim-faced men armed with crossbows and silver-tipped spears. At their head stood a tall figure Amelia recognized immediately: Gregory Templeton, the witch hunter who had led the pursuit against her father and now her. "Daughter of Drake," he called up to the walls. "We know you shelter within the monster's lair. Come forth and face judgment for your unholy nature." Nikolai stepped forward, his presence commanding immediate attention. "You trespass on vampire territory, hunter. Your quarrel is with me now." Gregory's face contorted with hatred. "We want only the witch. Give her to us and we will depart." "She is under my protection," Nikolai replied, his voice carrying effortlessly across the distance. "Leave now while you still breathe." "She has bewitched you, vampire," Gregory shouted. "Her bloodline corrupts all it touches." Amelia moved to stand beside Nikolai, her hands trembling slightly but her chin held high. The gasps from below told her that her transformation had not gone unnoticed. Her skin now carried a luminous quality in the moonlight, her eyes reflecting light like a predator's. "I am no witch, Gregory Templeton," she called down. "I am Daysinger, daughter of ancient blood. You killed my father out of fear and ignorance. I will not allow you to do the same to me." "Abomination!" Gregory raised his crossbow. "Your father died screaming for mercy that never came. So shall you." He fired. The bolt whistled through the air directly at Amelia's heart. Without thinking, she raised her hand. The bolt stopped mid-air, hovering before her palm, then clattered harmlessly to the stone at her feet. Gasps and frightened murmurs rose from the witch hunters below. Even Nikolai looked surprised, though he quickly masked it. "This is your only warning," Amelia called out, her voice stronger now. "Leave these lands and never return. Spread word that this territory is protected by both vampire and Daysinger. Any who come seeking our destruction will find their own." Gregory's face contorted with rage. "Kill them all," he screamed to his men. "Burn the fortress to the ground." The witch hunters surged forward with torches and weapons. Nikolai signaled to his guards, who materialized from the shadows around the fortress walls, moving with supernatural speed to intercept the attackers. "Stay back," Nikolai commanded Amelia, stepping in front of her protectively, but something was awakening within her. Knowledge she had not possessed before, power flowing through her veins. She placed a hand on Nikolai's arm, feeling him stiffen at her touch. "Trust me," she whispered. Through their bond, she felt his conflict, the desire to protect her warring with recognition of her growing power. Finally, he nodded once and stepped aside. Amelia closed her eyes, drawing on the ancient blood now fully awakened within her. When she opened them again, she saw the world differently, energy patterns connecting all living things, brightest around the vampire guards, dimmer around the human attackers. She raised her hands, feeling power gather between her palms. "Enough," she said, her voice carrying an otherworldly resonance. A wave of energy pulsed outward from her, washing over the battlefield below. Every witch hunter froze in place, their weapons dropping from suddenly nerveless fingers. Only Gregory remained partially mobile, fighting against her influence with sheer hatred. "What sorcery is this?" he gasped, struggling to raise his silver dagger. "The same power you feared in my father," Amelia replied, maintaining her concentration. "The power to bridge worlds." She descended the stone steps from the rampart, Nikolai moving like a shadow beside her. When they reached the frozen hunters, she approached Gregory directly. "You hunted my family out of fear," she said softly. "That fear ends tonight." She placed her palm against his forehead. Through their connection, she showed him visions of truth, her father's noble nature, the ancient lineage of Daysingers who had once protected humans from vampire excesses, the balance her kind had maintained between worlds. When she withdrew her hand, Gregory fell to his knees, his expression shattered. "What have we done?" he whispered. "Go home," Amelia told him and the others, releasing her hold on them. "Tell your people that this territory is protected. We desire no conflict with humans who leave us in peace." The witch hunters gathered their fallen weapons with shaking hands and retreated to the forest edge. Only Gregory remained, looking back at Amelia with new understanding. "Your father was a good man," he said hoarsely. "I see that now. May God forgive us for what we did to him." "God has nothing to do with this," Amelia replied. "But I release you from your guilt. Go, and hunt no more of my kind." As the humans disappeared into the forest, Amelia felt exhaustion overtake her. Her knees buckled, and Nikolai caught her before she could fall. "That," he said with quiet amazement, "was unexpected." "Did you know I could do that?" she asked weakly. "I suspected your powers would be significant. I did not realize they would include mass compulsion." He lifted her effortlessly in his arms. "The blood courts will definitely come now. What you just displayed would terrify even the most ancient among them." "Are you terrified?" she asked, studying his face. His expression softened as he carried her back toward the fortress. "No, I am proud." The admission warmed her more than she cared to admit. 3 nights later, Amelia stood in Nikolai's private chambers, watching as he studied ancient texts spread across a massive oak table. Maps and scrolls covered every surface, many written in languages she could not identify. "The blood court hunters will arrive tomorrow night," he said without looking up. 12 of them, led by Counselor Varian, one of the oldest vampires in existence. "Can we defeat them?" she asked. "Not by force." He finally raised his eyes to hers. "Varian commands powers I cannot match, even with my territorial advantage. And you, while powerful, are still learning to control your abilities. Then what do? We negotiate." He straightened, rolling up one of the scrolls. "Varian values knowledge above all else. Your existence as possibly the last Daysinger may intrigue him enough to stay his hand. And if it does not?" Nikolai was silent for a moment. "Then we implement our contingency plan." Over the past weeks, they had prepared escape routes, safe houses, methods to temporarily mask the blood bond between them to prevent tracking. The prospect of running, of leaving the fortress that had become her home, filled Amelia with dread. "I will not be the cause of your exile," she said firmly. "You will not be given a choice if it comes to that." His tone brooked no argument. "Our bond means your safety is my primary concern. And yours is mine," she countered, moving closer to him. "This bond works both ways, Nikolai. I feel your determination to protect me, but do you not feel mine to protect you as well?" His expression softened slightly. "I do. It is disconcerting." "Why?" "In 9 centuries, no one has truly cared whether I lived or died," he admitted. "My existence has been one of duty and power, not connection." Amelia reached out, hesitantly touching his face. His skin was cool beneath her fingers, but not as cold as when they had first met. The blood bond had changed them both in subtle ways. "I care," she said simply. Through their bond, she felt his emotional walls weakening. His hand came up to cover hers, keeping it pressed against his cheek. "I know," he whispered. "That is what terrifies me." The vulnerability in his eyes made her heart ache. This ancient, powerful creature had lived centuries believing himself incapable of genuine connection, defined by his monstrous nature rather than the person beneath it. Just as she had believed herself cursed, unworthy of love because of the darkness in her blood. "We were both wrong," she said softly, "about what we are, about what we deserve." His eyes searched hers, centuries of loneliness reflected in their depths. Slowly, giving her time to pull away, he leaned forward and pressed his lips to hers. The kiss was gentle at first, then deepened as their blood bond flared between them. Amelia felt his emotions as if they were her own. Desire, hope, and beneath it all, a fierce protectiveness that bordered on devotion. She returned the kiss with equal fervor, pouring her own feelings into their connection. When they finally separated, Nikolai rested his forehead against hers. "Whatever comes tomorrow," he said hoarsely, "know that you have changed me in ways I thought impossible." "As you have changed me," she replied. "We face the blood courts together." He nodded once, then stepped back, his expression becoming serious once more. "Rest tonight. Tomorrow will test us both." The blood court delegation arrived precisely at midnight, materializing from the darkness like wraiths. 12 vampires of varying ages formed a protective circle around a central figure, Counselor Varian, ancient and terrible in his beauty. White-haired and regal, he moved with the fluid grace of a creature who had walked the earth for millennia. Nikolai and Amelia awaited them in the great hall of the fortress, seated side by side on twin thrones upon a raised dais. The symbolism was deliberate, presenting themselves as equals unified in power and purpose. "Prince Nikolai," Varian's voice echoed through the hall, smooth as aged wine. "It has been 3 centuries, I believe?" "Counselor." Nikolai inclined his head slightly, a gesture of respect but not submission. "What brings the blood courts to my territory?" Varian's ancient eyes shifted to Amelia, narrowing slightly. "I think we both know the answer to that question. Hospitality dictates I offer you blood and comfort before we discuss business," Nikolai replied smoothly. "Will you and your escort partake?" The formality of vampire politics demanded certain courtesies be observed, even between potential enemies. Varian nodded once, and servants appeared carrying crystal goblets filled with blood for the visitors. Once the ritual welcoming was complete, Varian addressed Amelia directly. "You are the Daysinger whose awakening we felt across the continent." "I am," she replied, keeping her voice steady despite her racing heart. "The last of your kind, perhaps." He studied her with clinical interest. "Do you know why your bloodline was hunted to near extinction?" "Because you feared our power," she answered honestly. "Because we represented a bridge between worlds that threatened vampire purity." Varian's lips curved in the barest hint of a smile. "Partially correct. We feared not your power, but its purpose. The first Daysinger created your bloodline with a single goal, to eventually overthrow vampire rule and establish Daysingers as the dominant supernatural species." Nikolai tensed beside her, and Amelia realized this was information he had not possessed. "I have no such ambition," she said firmly. "Perhaps not consciously," Varian conceded. "But the blood remembers its purpose, even when the mind does not." His gaze shifted to Nikolai. "And you, Prince, have complicated matters by binding yourself to her. Your blood now mingles with the very lineage designed to destroy our kind." Nikolai rose from his throne, his power filling the room like a physical presence. "My blood, my choices. The territories have always been sovereign, Counselor. You overstep. The blood courts supersede territorial claims when existential threats arise," Varian countered, unmoved by the display. "The girl must be studied, her powers contained. She comes with us tonight." "She does not." Nikolai's voice dropped dangerously low. "She remains under my protection." The tension in the hall became suffocating as the 2 ancient vampires faced each other. Amelia felt their powers clash in the air between them, Nikolai's territorial strength against Varian's ancient authority. "Then you leave us no choice," Varian said softly. "By the authority of the blood courts, I declare you in violation of the ancient covenant. Your title and territories are forfeit, Prince Nikolai." The other vampires moved with lightning speed, forming a circle around the dais. Nikolai's guards emerged from the shadows, outnumbered but determined to protect their prince. "Stop!" Amelia's voice cut through the tension. She stood, feeling power surge through her blood. "There is another way." All eyes turned to her as she stepped forward, placing herself between Nikolai and Varian. "The blood courts seek to understand my powers, to ensure I pose no threat," she said, addressing Varian directly. "I propose a blood covenant, not with Nikolai alone, but with the courts themselves." Murmurs rose from the vampire delegation. Virian's expression remained impassive, but his interest was evident. "Explain," he commanded. "A formal blood oath that binds me to peace with all vampire kind, so long as they maintain peace with me and those under my protection." She held his gaze steadily. "My powers would be used to benefit both worlds, not to dominate either. In return, the courts acknowledge my right to exist and Nikolai's right to maintain his bond with me." Virian considered her for a long moment. Such a covenant would require blood from all council members. "It has not been done in millennia." "Then perhaps it is time," she replied. "The world changes. Should not immortals adapt with it?" A hint of amusement crossed Virian's ancient features. "You speak boldly for one so young." "Age and wisdom are not always companions," she countered, "as I'm sure you've observed in your long existence." To everyone's surprise, Virian laughed, a sound like cracking ice. "Indeed." He turned to Nikolai. "Your Daysinger is either very brave or very foolish. Perhaps both." "She is neither yours to insult nor mine to control," Nikolai replied coolly. "Her proposal has merit." Virian studied them both, his eyes calculating. "The council will require proof of her control over her abilities. A demonstration." "What sort of demonstration?" Amelia asked cautiously. "Enter my mind," Virian challenged. "Show me your power, but do not attempt to influence me. Simply observe." The request was dangerous. To enter the mind of a vampire as ancient as Virian was to risk being trapped in centuries of memories, lost in the labyrinth of an immortal consciousness. Nikolai moved to her side. "Amelia, you do not have to do this." "Yes, I do." She squeezed his hand briefly. "It is the only way." She approached Virian slowly, aware of every vampire in the room watching her movements. When she stood before him, she raised her hands to either side of his temples, not quite touching. "May I?" she asked formally. He inclined his head in permission. She placed her palms against his skin and closed her eyes. The contact was immediate and overwhelming. Virian's mind was vast, a cathedral of memories spanning millennia, emotions both alien and familiar, knowledge that no human was meant to possess. Amelia fought to maintain her sense of self as his consciousness engulfed hers. She saw civilizations rise and fall through his eyes, witnessed the formation of the first blood courts, felt the weight of decisions that had shaped vampire society. Most importantly, she saw his fear, not of her personally, but of change, of disruption to an order that had existed for thousands of years. Carefully, respectfully, she withdrew from his mind, opening her eyes to find him staring at her with new understanding. "You did not take," he said quietly. "You did not try to influence, even when you saw my vulnerabilities." "That was not my purpose," she replied. "I sought understanding, not control." Virian studied her for a long moment, then turned to address his delegation. "I have made my decision. The Daysinger will be offered covenant with the blood courts. Prince Nikolai retains his territories and title." Relief flooded through Amelia, echoed through her bond with Nikolai. But Virian was not finished. "However," he continued, "should the covenant be broken, should your powers be used against our kind, the response will be swift and final." He looked directly at Nikolai. "For both of you." "The terms are acceptable," Nikolai replied formally. "Then let it be done." Virian motioned to one of his attendants, who stepped forward carrying an ornate silver box. The ritual that followed was ancient and solemn. Blood was exchanged, Amelia's mixed with that of each council representative, binding promises spoken in languages long dead to human ears. When it was complete, Virian himself pressed his palm to Amelia's forehead, leaving a mark that glowed briefly before fading into her skin. "The covenant is sealed," he announced. "The Daysinger is recognized by the blood courts. Her bond with Prince Nikolai is acknowledged." The formal declaration complete, Virian approached Amelia once more. "You have achieved something remarkable tonight," he said quietly. "Few have ever negotiated successfully with the blood courts." "I had motivation," she replied, glancing at Nikolai. "Yes, Virian's ancient eyes held surprising warmth. Perhaps in you, we will find a bridge rather than a threat. He looked between her and Nikolai. The covenant allows your continued existence together, but be warned, your bond creates something new, something neither human nor vampire. The consequences of such a union remain to be seen. With those cryptic words, he bowed formally and led his delegation from the hall, leaving Amelia and Nikolai alone with their thoughts. When the last of the visitors had departed, Nikolai turned to her, his expression a mixture of pride and concern. "What you did tonight was necessary," she finished for him. "It was remarkable." He took her hands in his. "You faced down the most ancient vampire in existence and negotiated terms that benefited us both." Through their bond, she felt his pride, his relief, and beneath it all, something deeper that neither had yet named aloud. "The covenant is binding," she said. "I will never be able to use my powers against vampire kind. And in return, you are protected from them." He lifted her chin gently. "It was a fair exchange." Virian said our bond creates something new. She searched his face. "Does that concern you?" 9 centuries of existence has taught me that change is inevitable, even for immortals. His expression softened. "What concerns me more is what comes next for us." "What do you mean?" "The blood courts will be watching closely. The witch hunters have retreated but may return. And your powers continue to grow." He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Our path forward will not be simple." "Few worthwhile things are," she replied. Through their bond, she let him feel her determination, her growing affection, her certainty that together they could face whatever challenges arose. A rare smile curved his lips. Indeed, 6 months later, Amelia stood on the fortress battlements, watching the sunrise paint the mountains gold. Her Daysinger abilities had continued to develop under Nikolai's guidance. She could now move with nearly the speed of a full vampire, heal almost any wound, and enter the dreams of both humans and vampires, though the latter she did only with permission, mindful of the covenant. The blood courts had kept their distance, seemingly satisfied with the agreement reached that night. The witch hunters had not returned, Gregory Templeton having apparently convinced his brethren that the Drake bloodline was not their concern. Footsteps approached from behind, too quiet for human ears to detect, but clear to her enhanced senses. "You rise earlier each day," Nikolai observed, coming to stand beside her. "The sunrise still amazes me." She glanced at him with a smile. "One advantage I have over you." Though as an ancient, Nikolai could tolerate brief exposure to morning light. He preferred the comfort of darkness. Their differences remained, yet had become points of strength rather than division. "I received word from the Northern Territories," he said. "There are rumors of another possible Daysinger, a young man discovered with abilities similar to yours." Hope flared within her. "I am not the last?" "Perhaps not." He studied her face. "If you wish to seek him out, I would understand." Through their bond, she felt his genuine desire for her happiness, even if it meant temporary separation. How far they had come from the cold prince who had found her fleeing through his forest. "We will seek him together," she decided. "If he exists, he will need guidance from both worlds." Relief and pleasure flowed through their connection. Together, then, she turned to face him fully, taking in the face that had become more dear to her than she had ever thought possible. The monster she had once feared now represented safety, understanding, and a love that had grown slowly but unquestionably between them. "There is something I must ask you," she said, suddenly serious. His expression grew attentive. "What is it?" "The blood bond between us has given me extended life, but not immortality. Eventually, I will age and die, while you continue." The thought had troubled her increasingly as their connection deepened. "What then?" Nikolai was silent for a moment, his eyes reflecting the rising sun. "There is a ritual," he said finally. "Ancient, rarely performed. It would bind us permanently, your life force to mine, mine to yours." "Making me immortal?" she asked, hardly daring to hope. "Not exactly." We would both exist in the space between neither fully immortal nor mortal. Our lifespans would be matched, our fates intertwined completely. His voice lowered. If one dies, both die. The implication stunned her. You would give up your immortality? For me, eternity holds little appeal if faced alone again. He took her hands in his. I have existed for 9 centuries, Amelia. In that time I have accumulated power, knowledge, territories, but never connection. Never love. The word hung between them, spoken aloud for the first time though long felt through their bond. You would trade immortality for a life with me? She whispered. I would trade far more than that. His voice grew fervent. These months with you have taught me that existence without meaning is merely survival. You have given my life meaning, Amelia Drake. Tears welled in her eyes, reflecting the sunrise. How would this ritual work? It requires an exchange more profound than our initial blood bond. My heart's blood for yours, freely given, with full understanding of the consequences. His hands tightened on hers. It cannot be undone once completed. Amelia thought of all they had endured together, the transformation, the witch hunters, the blood courts. She thought of the centuries of loneliness he had experienced, and the isolation she had felt before finding him. Most of all, she thought of the connection that had grown between them, deeper than either had believed possible. Yes, she said simply. When? His expression softened with wonder. You are certain? I have never been more certain of anything. She reached up to touch his face. When? The ritual requires preparation. The full moon, 3 nights from now, would be most auspicious. His eyes searched hers. There is no hurry, Amelia. We have time. 3 nights, she agreed. Under the full moon. He pulled her into his arms, holding her as the sun rose higher over the mountains. Through their bond, she felt his joy, his wonder at having found her after centuries alone. I once believed monsters could not love, she murmured against his chest. As did I. His voice rumbled beneath her ear. We were both quite wrong. The night of the full moon arrived clear and cold, stars blazing across the velvet sky. Nikolai had spent days preparing the ritual chamber, an ancient room deep within the fortress foundations, its walls carved with symbols older than written language. Amelia entered wearing a simple white gown, her hair flowing loose down her back. Nikolai awaited her at the center of the chamber, dressed in ceremonial black, his expression both solemn and tender. Candles surrounded them, their light reflecting off a silver ritual dagger and 2 crystal goblets placed upon a stone altar. The air hummed with power, not just Nikolai's, but the accumulated energy of centuries of vampire rituals performed in this sacred space. Are you certain? He asked once more as she approached. This cannot be undone. I have never been more certain, she replied, taking his hands in hers. Are you? You sacrifice more than I do. I sacrifice nothing of value compared to what I gain. His voice was fervent. Immortality without connection is a curse, not a gift. He led her to stand before the altar, where the ancient ritual implements awaited. The silver dagger gleamed in the candlelight, its blade etched with symbols similar to those on the walls. The ritual has 3 parts, he explained. The offering, the exchange, and the binding. Each must be completed with full consent and clear intention. Amelia nodded, her heart pounding with anticipation rather than fear. Nikolai lifted the dagger, his movements deliberate and ceremonial. I, Nikolai Valasin, Prince of the Eastern Territories, offer my heart's blood freely to Amelia Drake, Daysinger of the ancient lineage. I relinquish claim to solitary immortality, choosing instead to bind my existence to hers for all remaining days. He drew the blade across his palm, deeper than a normal blood exchange would require. Dark blood welled immediately, flowing freely into one of the crystal goblets. Amelia could see the iridescent quality unique to ancient vampire blood, pulsing with power accumulated over centuries. When the goblet was nearly full, he passed the dagger to her. Her hands remained steady as she took it. I, Amelia Drake, Daysinger of the ancient lineage, offer my heart's blood freely to Nikolai Valasin, Prince of the Eastern Territories. I embrace the binding of our existences, neither fully mortal nor immortal, joined in purpose and fate until the end of our days. She drew the blade across her palm, watching as her blood, brighter than his but with its own supernatural luminescence, flowed into the second goblet. When both vessels were filled, Nikolai set the dagger aside and lifted his goblet. Amelia did the same. With this exchange, they spoke in unison, words Nikolai had taught her for this moment. We surrender separation. Neither death nor life shall divide what is joined this night. They exchanged goblets, each now holding the other's blood. The final step, Nikolai said softly, requires absolute certainty. Once taken, our fates become one. If I perish, so shall you. If you die, I follow. We will age, though slowly, and eventually face mortality together. This is no small thing I ask of you, Amelia. She looked into his eyes, seeing 9 centuries of solitude, of power without purpose, of existence without connection. She saw also the transformation her presence had wrought, the capacity for tenderness, for hope, for love that had awakened in him. I choose you, she said simply, now and for all the days we are granted. The certainty in her voice seemed to touch something deep within him. Through their bond, she felt a wave of emotion so profound it nearly overwhelmed her. Gratitude, wonder, and love deeper than she had believed possible. And I choose you, he replied, his voice thick with feeling. Above immortality, above power, above all else. They raised the goblets to their lips and drank deeply, consuming each other's blood in a single, continuous draught. The moment the last drop passed Amelia's lips, power surged through the chamber. A whirlwind of energy that encircled them both, binding, merging, transforming. Pain and pleasure intertwined as their separate life forces became one. Amelia gasped as visions flooded her mind. Nikolai's centuries of existence flowing into her consciousness, his memories becoming hers. Through their enhanced bond, she felt him experiencing the same, her human childhood, her father's death, her awakening as Daysinger becoming part of his understanding. The ritual's power peaked, lifting them both slightly from the stone floor, suspended in the vortex of transformation. Light emanated from their joined hands, so bright it illuminated the entire chamber. When it finally subsided, they stood facing each other, forever changed. Amelia could feel the difference immediately. Her life force and his, perfectly balanced between them, neither fully vampire nor fully Daysinger, but something new entirely. It is done, Nikolai whispered, gazing at her with wonder. Through their now permanent bond, she felt his amazement at the completeness of their connection. No barriers remained between them. Every thought, every emotion flowed freely between their minds and hearts. How do you feel? She asked, though she could sense his answer before he spoke. Whole, he replied simply. For the first time in 9 centuries. Whole. She understood perfectly. The emptiness she had carried since childhood, the sense of being neither fully human nor belonging anywhere, had vanished. In its place was certainty, belonging, and a love so profound it defied description. Nikolai drew her into his arms, his lips finding hers in a kiss that sealed their union. Through their bond, past and future merged. His centuries of existence flowing backward to touch her mortal beginnings, her humanity reaching forward to infuse his immortal perspectives. When they finally separated, he rested his forehead against hers. The blood courts will sense this transformation, he murmured. What we have done has not been attempted in millennia. Are you concerned? She asked. A smile curved his lips, freer and more genuine than any she had seen before their bond. No, the covenant protects us still, and what we have created poses no threat to their kind. It simply expands the possibilities of existence. Amelia placed her hand over his heart, feeling its steady beat synchronized perfectly with her own. What happens now? Now, he said, his eyes reflecting the candlelight. We begin the greatest adventure of all. A shared life, neither bound by mortality's brief span nor burdened by immortality's endless isolation. How many years do we have? She asked, Centuries, perhaps millennia. He traced the curve of her cheek with reverent fingers. Time enough to heal ancient wounds, to create something new between our worlds, to love beyond the constraints of human imagination. The prospect filled her with wonder rather than fear. Through their bond, she sensed his equal amazement at the path that had brought them here, from a frightened human fleeing through his forest to this moment of perfect union. "I once believed monsters could not love," she whispered, echoing the false belief that had shaped her early life. "And I once believed love was a human weakness," he replied, pulling her close again. "How fortunate we were to discover our mutual error." As they emerged from the ritual chamber into the moonlit night, Amelia felt the truth of their transformation resonating through every fiber of her being. No longer separate creatures bound by a blood oath, but a single entity with two hearts beating in perfect harmony. She had indeed traded her last mortal breath for his immortal kiss, and in return, he had surrendered immortality's lonely eternity for the profound connection they now shared. Together they stood at the threshold of something entirely new, neither fully human nor vampire, neither mortal nor immortal, but something more powerful than either. Two souls who had found in each other the redemption, purpose, and love that had eluded them in separate existence. The moon shone down upon them, bearing witness to the birth of something unprecedented in the long histories of both their kinds. A love that had transcended the boundaries of mortality and monstrosity, creating its own path through the mysteries of existence yet to come.